Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special 123rd episode of Real Hawk Talk. This is Brian Nemhauser, at Hawk Blogger on Twitter, and as always, joined by my favorite pair of fellas at Real Jeff Simmons up there in the great north of Canada. How are you, dude?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I was up. I was enjoying my Friday night and trying to figure out what to do. And Evan just wrote us trying to talk Seahawks. So this is
I
a
was
nice
bored,
change.
man. I
Yeah,
was
this is a
bored.
nice change of pace. I was like winding down, getting ready to go to bed, watching bad reruns. Like,
That's exactly it. I mean, and it's weird that it's Friday night, by the way, too. Like it feels like it should be like Monday tomorrow, but it's Saturday tomorrow. I don't quite follow that. And also, as you heard, our fearless take master, Evan Hill at Evan in SEA. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing well. Cheers, brothers. I have some spiked hot chocolate in my hands.
Ooh, what's
I
it
can
spiked with?
vodka. Alex made it. So I don't
Okay.
know if that's normal. I think that's
how is it?
uh waiting for it to cool down so I don't burn my tongue. But I'll let you know in
Yeah,
30
perfect.
seconds.
You know, Rachel made some homemade hot buttered rum the other night, and it was really good. It was really good. But
Have you ever had
yeah,
butter
guys,
beer?
what's that?
Have you ever had butter beer?
I
Like
have
from Harry
not.
Potter? You know that's where originates from is Harry Potter the series, I think, at
Uh-huh.
least. Butterbeer is amazing, but there's spiked butterbeer, and Alex makes it all the time, and it is a absolute game changer. Highly recommend it.
The butter beer by itself is not alcoholic, but then
I don't know what the default is, but I know there's definitely like a non-alcoholic and an alcoholic version.
I see. I see. So this is like the Black Friday episode of Real Hawk Talk. Are we discounting anything? Should I go into the Redbubble store and slash prices?
Yeah, Cable Thanos, his OnlyFans account is 45% off for special access. That was highly inappropriate. I can't believe I just said that. But
Yeah, well, you're gonna have some people looking for that because
We should get him a
yes.
Cameo account.
Oh God, this is going quickly in the wrong direction. Um, so Evan, you called this little shindig tonight. What were the things that you wanted to talk about? I definitely have a few things that were on my mind.
yeah, the Lane Johnson injury is big. I think we could discuss that and what that means for Seattle's pass rush matchup. He's a pretty one of their best offensive linemen, especially in a really injured group. But I also thought it'd be interesting to talk about the state of the NFC playoff race, because the reality is that it's wide open, unlike the AFC where there's like an undefeated team or a 9-1 team like the Chiefs. Seattle's still in it, even though they dropped, three out of those 5 games in that really difficult stretch just a little bit ago. They're definitely still in it, and the 1 seed is possible if they run the table. And I just thought there were some interesting matchups this weekend that we could talk through in terms of who we'll be rooting for, particularly Rams and Niners, and just some other games going on.
Yeah,
I'd love to pick your brains.
there's a lot of those games that are particularly interesting to me to talk about. The non-Seahawks games,
Yeah.
the Niners Rams one's one of them. Um, let's start with the injury stuff for sure, since there's some updated news there today that's worth going over. But like, so people that don't know, Derek, who's on our staff, writes some of the best articles of the group for sure. Super smart guy. But like, he's like given up on the notion of the Seahawks getting the number 1 seed. He's like, there's no way they're going to run the table or like along those lines. I don't get it. Like, I get why the numbers probability wise say that won't happen, but I'm looking at the Saints playing the Broncos this weekend. And with Taysom Hill at quarterback, are you telling me that there's like less than a 20% chance that the Broncos find a way to win that game?
Oh, it's
Like,
got to be way higher than that.
right? Like, I think it's probably like 40-60 or something like that. Like the Broncos defense has been excellent. And so I don't assume the Saints are going to like any of these games or gimmies when they've got Taysom Hill. I didn't think Taysom Hill played wonderfully last weekend. I thought the Falcons played like crap. So I don't know. And even the Packers this weekend, like, I guess we'll get into all this, but like, I just don't assume that the other teams are going to run away with this. So I think the number 1 seed is firmly in the realm of possibilities for the Seahawks. I haven't given up on it at all. But Jeff, why don't you start us off talking about the injury situation? And I think that I'll set the scene for you. So the update for the Eagles offensive line is a couple moves today, right? So Lane Johnson is, as Evan said, is out for the year. He's probably their best offensive lineman. He's a right tackle. They are moving. What's his name?
Matt Pryor.
No,
no, I'm sorry. I should have been prepared on this one. They're moving Jordan Mailata to left tackle. And he's played there a little bit, but he'll be getting the start there. They're moving Jason Peters to right guard, which is what they signed him to play this year. And then they're moving Matt Pryor, who was playing right guard, to right tackle. So a lot of moves there, as well as Jason Kelce has been limited in practice all week. And for folks that didn't know, he was so hurt in the game this past weekend against the Browns, he couldn't even snap his own helmet on. He had to have someone else do it because he didn't have real use of that other arm. So that's a bad offensive line that might be worse. What's your take on the impact of all that switching around, Jeff?
So first, the funny thing about this was one of the things that amazes me about our group in general, to me, is how early you guys are up and how early you guys are like talking Seahawks. This morning, like I posted a link in our chat just mentioning that the moves were switching. And I led to some like Brian breaking down the entire makeup of the offensive line of the Eagles. And this is at like 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. And like him, Derek, Evan, Dayna, like they are going head to head and head. And I'm like barely awake. It's 10 a.m. my time. And you guys are just boom, 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 boom. Brian like knew like every fan's opinion. He had the PFF grades. It was like,
that's how you know we have a fucking problem.
Yeah, this happens like every fan. Like I'll drop something in there thinking like, okay, they'll see this in a couple hours. And then there's like, I look back and there's like 19 responses at 6 a.m.
Well, I have to admit, it drives me a little crazy when like I told you guys the Lane Johnson news like before our last show, but nobody fucking listens to me. Like, so like,
yeah, you clearly did your homework on the offensive line.
We could even be in the same show, Jeff, and I'll say something, and like 20 minutes later, Evan's like, "What about this?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude." He's like, "Unless you're talking about me, I'm not too interested." I think that's what it is.
I have a Brian filter, and about 5% makes it through to my ears. So
that's probably about what's worth listening to. So you're not far off.
But can we talk about? Can I jump in real quick on something?
Yeah.
Did you hear what Lane Johnson said about his injury?
No.
He said I don't want to paraphrase his words. He says the inside of his ankle has completely collapsed.
Ooh.
First of all, I did not know an inside of an ankle could completely collapse.
That hurts.
So I have no real incredible analysis to provide outside of that sounded disgusting today. Does that not sound disgusting?
It makes sense. He's been like coming in and out of the games almost every time he suits up, and like he must be like so highly medicated or so highly like shot up to play in these games, because every time he tries to play, it seems like he leaves in the first quarter. So yeah, that makes sense that he's been barely hanging on, and he's probably going through like an insane level of pain thresholds just to play. And he probably should have shut it down weeks ago. But yeah, I guess I should answer Brian's original question.
Yeah, dude.
I cut you off.
A perfectly good question, and I got no answer.
Well, I praise you for answering my thread this morning. So yeah, what it does is, and we've seen this a lot with the Seahawks, is like Eagles fans are excited right now because they think they're solving two holes with one move by taking some of their worst players out of the lineup. But offensive line is very much about communication. It's about knowing what the guy next to you is going to do. And they went from having the best offensive line in football going into the year, or one of the top three. And all of a sudden, they have two tackles who are not very particularly good. They have a left tackle who they think is an upgrade. It was like a 55 PFF grade. And the only spot they're really potentially upgrading is Jason Peters at right guard, who's never really played right guard. So it's really creating a mess of an offensive line. And it's creating three new spots in a team that hasn't had protection, has had protection problems all year. And Carson Wentz has no comfort in the pocket. And I don't think this is much of a positive for the Eagles as much as their fans think this is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you brought that up, Jeff, around whether it's an upgrade or not. So Jason Peters played left tackle this last week and gave up 3 sacks and 7 pressures in a game that a lot of Eagles fans are calling the worst game of his career. And so they are pretty eager to see Jordan Mailata play. And if you look at his PFF grades, they're not that very impressive. He has had some decent games. His pass blocking has been okay. But like, that's the thing for me. Wow. He's 6'8", 346. That's a big dude. That's a tall dude.
So in 273 snaps, that Jordan Mailata guy, at left tackle against Pittsburgh, Baltimore, the Niners, and the Giants, he's given up 3 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 8 total pressures. Compared to Jason Peters, 47 snaps at left tackle versus the Browns, who in one game had 3 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 7 pressures allowed. So it's a little bit of an upgrade. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, and even the one that was interesting to me was the Matt Pryor switch, because one thing we've seen is Carlos Dunlap can rush from either side. He got that game-ending sack against Kyler Murray rushing from the left end, so going against the right tackle. And Matt Pryor, I mean, this guy has been he's been a bad pass blocker as a guard all year. I mean, he's got 2 pass block grades over 80 out of 8 games. He's got 3 that are under 50. He's got 2 that are under 40. He's got 2 more that are at 50. So, I mean, like, he hasn't been a good pass protector, and I don't know what putting him outside is going to do to help that. He's also 6'7", 338. These are long dudes. So I'll be interested to see. If nothing else, communication, right? I would think that would be the thing, right, Jeff? Like, against a team that likes to blitz now and then, that seems like that would be a big advantage for the Seahawks.
Yeah, and Jamal Adams seemed pretty giddy today when he was talking, other than when Joe called him out on his coverage. But he didn't like that. I watched the press conference.
You should tell people what happened. They might not have seen it.
So Jamal is a very confident person if you ever listen when he speaks. And that's just, I think you kind of have to be when you're wired the way he is. And to be a top of the line athlete, you kind of have to just think you're the best at everything you do. And Jamal was just kind of beaming today. He's obviously, but Joe asked him how he would evaluate his coverage. And clearly Jamal's been reading Twitter, and he mentioned PFF right away. He said, I don't give a shit what PFF says, essentially. He said, I've had one bad play on Stephon Diggs. My whole year has been fine. I'm not playing man coverage. And he was cold. But other than that, Jamal seemed excited about what the defense can do this week and who they're going up against. He seemed really confident, definitely more confident than he's spoken about the defense in the past. But yeah, Joe definitely got to him.
Hey, random thing. Now, Joe is an FOS. He's a friend of show. But I say this objectively, I honestly do. And I'm curious for you guys. To me, Joe is the most likely out of the Seahawks beat to graduate to national,
Yeah.
coverage at some point. I mean, he's smart, he's gutsy, he asks questions that other people don't. I think he does good work. His analysis is pretty spot on. I think he's a thinking reporter. He's not just reporting exactly what is said in press conferences like some of the other folks do. So do you guys see anyone else that's like on that level or like in that conversation?
I do. I'll give one shout out. Mike Duger from The Athletic. He's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
Mike's content has gotten really, really
that's the thing. Mike is more of like a written analysis, like, content pieces, I think, sort of guy. And everything I've read from him has been really insightful.
And I agree. But Brian, I used to be on like working beats here and there. And one thing, just being around it, you can always tell there's one or two guys that ask questions differently than the rest of the. Most of the people are asking about like the injuries or personnel questions, kind of like a lot of stuff you'll hear, or they'll ask like, why wasn't this guy at practice? When Sheil Kapadia was here, he was the guy you can just pinpoint from listening to press conference that he was different than everyone else. He saw the game differently. And he has graduated. He's a national guy at The Athletic now. And Joe is the guy who asked the question. But yeah, I agree with Evan too. Mike Duger's content since going to The Athletic has tremendously improved. He does the best, the most creative content of anyone on the beat. I think I wrote him that earlier this year. And some of the stuff that like, I thought there was just a lacking in creative ideas, and especially now where you're not around the players, I thought what he's done in COVID has been really, really good.
There are people in the chat talking about Greg Bell. I don't see that, to be honest.
I would describe him as the group that I was talking about, who kind of just asks what everyone else asks.
I think Greg likes being a big fish in a small pond. I'll leave it at that.
Greg is a professional reporter. He's definitely been around. He knows what he's doing, but he's not your next like Mike Garofalo or something.
No, I don't see it.
Yeah.
All right, that took us off on a tangent there for a second, but yeah, I mean, you were talking about Jamal. He also talked about feeling like he's gonna maybe be able to play with two arms for the first time in a while. Recovering from his injury. Ken Norton was a little salty about people, Bobby Wagner had his back about the noise and like, saying that Ken Norton's got this covered. I don't know. We're going to see this week. Like, I got to say, like, the bar for the defense is high right now for this game. Like, I don't know if you guys are looking at this, but like, give me what the level is, the threshold is for what would be a good defensive game against this particular offense. So it's not like an independent, but
it's relative to this offense.
To this game, what would you need to see to walk away with and say, okay, that was positive, that was encouraging, that's building on what we just saw against Arizona? What would have to be true?
I think they have to limit the Eagles' offense to 20 points or less. Carson Wentz has been absolutely abysmal this year. Like, we need to be super clear about that. Like, Jeff talked about it on Wednesday's show. Like, Carson Wentz is looking like the worst quarterback in the NFL. Yes, he's made some nice throws here and there, but he leads the league in interceptions. He leads the league in fumbles. He's just not playing good football, man. So if they can keep him, I do expect Carson to make a couple of plays here and there, because I don't think the 2017, 2018 Carson Wentz MVP year is fully dead. I think he still can recover in his career and proceed towards an upwards trajectory. But yeah, I to answer your question, Brian, I think I'd put it at 20 points or less allowed,
which they've done in 4 games. Like the Eagles have scored under 20 points in 4 of their 10 games. So it's something that hasn't been done that often, but has happened a decent amount. I'd agree with that, by the way. That That's part of what I need to see is holding them under 20 points. How about you, Jeff? What else would need to be true?
I want to see the takeaways come back. I'd like to see 2 takeaways in this game. Carson Wentz leads the league in turnovers. He's not good under pressure. I think he has the worst QBR also when he's not facing pressure, which is really telling for a quarterback. Basically, the anti-Jared Goff stat. But to me, I just if the most thing I'm looking for is if like Wentz comes out and looks comfortable and it's just completing passes with ease, to me that would be super discouraging. It would be a huge step back from what we saw because he hasn't done that in one game this year. There hasn't been one game where if you watch Carson Wentz play, he's looked comfortable. Every week has just been like a mess where he's forcing stuff. And you saw last year when the Seahawks played him in the season, he kept throwing the ball into the ground. I think he had 6 turnovers that day. So if Carson Wentz comes out and looks comfortable, to me, that's a huge red flag.
Brian.
Yeah.
If the defense does not give up more than 20 points and say they have, I'm just going to shoot a dart, say they have 2 turnovers, do your feelings on Ken Norton change?
No.
Okay. I'm in the same boat, to be clear.
No,
I just wanted to hear it from you before I said it.
I'm at the point of like, my mind's made up about Ken Norton. I don't know if there's anything that could happen the rest of this season that would change my mind about Ken Norton. And that does not necessarily reflect well on me, to be honest. Like, who am I to say? I'm just telling you, like, he's done enough that to me just is pretty inexcusable. And I have enough questions about where the improvements even would be coming from and whether it's him or other people in the building that it would just be hard for me to lay it at his feet.
Yeah, I think the improvement more just is having Carlos Dunlap and the domino effect of him more so than coaching strategies.
Well, I mean, that's the thing though. I mean, Jeff, you and I talk about this all the time. We talk about good defensive coaches or we talk about good defenses. I think it's become very clear that good defenses are just overwhelmingly talented.
Yeah.
Like almost like we talk about Robert Saleh in San Francisco. You brought this up a bunch last year, Jeff, and you've brought it up before, but like, you know, they're actually still pretty good this year defensively, even with all the injuries, but they're not even close to what they were last year. And, you know, you look at these teams that have a significant number of playmakers, you know, the Rams, like they've got a bunch of really good players, like blue chip players. That's what makes a good defense. So I just think, to your point, you know, you get Adams back, you get Dunlap, and those aren't, maybe Adams is blue chip. He hasn't really been blue chip this year, but, you know, they're at least red chip. And I think that's an improvement over the guys that they were in there that were replacement level. Evan, you look like you were about to choke it on something.
I was checking the Oregon Ducks score, and I was about to text, the Beavs beat them 41-38.
No way.
Go Dogs. Woof, woof.
I know. I got a duck. I was watching that game with my duck, and he was none too pleased.
Let's just be clear. It's less about the Ducks losing and more about just an opportunity to shit on William Cordell. Let's be clear.
I know. He'll just have to return to being a Justin Herbert fan and put this in his rearview mirror. Yeah. Good for the Beavers, though. Beavers are, you know, they're the little engine that could. So, you know, that running back tonight was amazing. I don't know how many yards he finished with, but definitely over 200. I'll add a few more rapid fire things for me. Not all of these. I'm not saying all of these things have to be true for it to be a good defensive performance, but these are some of the things that would catch my attention.
Hit me.
You mentioned the 2 turnovers. I want to see if they can create pressure with 4 players. I want to see if they can create pressure creatively on blitzes. I want to see if the pass rush can actually be a factor in this game against an offensive line like this, and that to where the Eagles are just feeling a little overwhelmed. If it can look like the pass rush is somewhat overwhelming, that will be a big signal to me. Another thing that would be a signal to me, Shaquille Griffin coming back, like does the coverage look stickier? Are there, you know, are there just fewer open players. And I think that's another thing that I think they've shown a little bit of that. DJ Reed, by the way, on our injury report, the Seahawks injury report, he has not practiced yet this week. He may be out. So, I think we're probably looking at a Shaquille Griffin, Trey Flowers, Ugo Amadi trio is most likely what I think we'll see on Monday. And then, individually, like if Poona Ford keeps cooking, if Carlos Dunlap keeps cooking, if Jamal Adams, it looks like the disciplined player he was last week that was making plays without giving up plays. All those things I think, would be a big deal. So those are just a few of the things that kind of been running through my head looking at that.
Who is the number one player defensively that you want to see step up on Sunday or Monday?
If I could pick anybody.
Yeah. Who would be the most encouraging for you?
The first player that comes to mind is probably not the right answer, but it's Jordan Brooks. Like, he just has not been playing that well. And I think he's got more in him. And if he could start flashing and looking like he could be an impact player, I think that would bode really well for the team down the stretch.
You don't think it's Shaquille?
That was the other one that I was thinking about.
Yeah. In this matchup, though, where the Eagles' two best weapons are tight ends.
Yep.
Linebacker is an interesting choice. And Jamal, who proclaimed that he was known for taking out tight ends in coverage the last 2 years, said he hasn't been really covering tight ends this year. So,
sure.
Yeah, someone mentioned Quandre Diggs in the chat. I think that's a good call as well because he had a pretty good game last week, even though he had that boneheaded penalty. But like, it'd be good to see him continue to play better. So
I think Collier too.
Shaquille, is it Shaquille for you?
Jeff?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Shaquille. Cornerback's been by far their weakest position this year. Now that their pass rush isn't a joke anymore.
The biggest concern, I think we've been talking about this, moving forward defensively for me is cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this pass rush anymore.
No, they have a good pass rush now.
We have to recognize, I'm not willing to say good, I'm willing to say mediocre. They have a mediocre pass rush, which where we're coming from is amazing. So I will take that. But cornerback to me is the biggest concern moving forward. And if Shaquille can return to, what was it, 2018 or 2019 for him? That 1 year that he went off, I forget which year that was.
2018 was bad.
Oh, 2019. Okay. This year has just felt like forever. If he could return to 2019 for him, that'd be insanely positive. But I'm not hedging my bets on it.
Yeah. Let's talk quickly about the Seahawks injury report, and then maybe we can turn our attention to some of the other games.
Sure.
So Seahawks injury report, I'll have to pull it up to make sure I've got it, but I know that the DJ Reed did not practice. We have not seen Brandon Shell. I think that he's unlikely to practice or unlikely to play. Here we go. Jordan Simmons has not practiced, so he wasn't expected to play, but as a backup, he probably will not be available. Travis Homer's not going to play, guys. Just want you to brace for that. Kyle Fuller looks like he is not ready to come back as a backup center. So if Ethan Posick goes down for any reason, probably looking at Damian Lewis sliding back again, which this week could be interesting. What would happen? I don't know if you guys know this, Jeff. If Ethan Posick goes down and Damian Lewis has to slide over to center and Brandon Shell's out, so Jamarco Jones might be playing right tackle, maybe not.
I guess they're going to keep him at guard with Simmons out.
That's probably right.
And Posick coming back from an injury. I think they need him at guard this week as much as we want him at tackle.
Cedric Ogbuehi.
That's a scary matchup.
Yeah. That could be the thing that makes this a game for the Eagles. That one matchup. I mean, if they put Brandon Graham over Ogbuehi, oh boy. And you know what?
Will Disley should block a lot this week.
But you know what? Like, this is what drives me crazy sometimes. Like, you guys know I'm a huge fan of Russell and a big proponent of his. But people like give him so many excuses about these situations where you know that this offensive line is going to have an issue potentially at right tackle. You're not going to have as much time as normal. This is not the game to be patting the ball and looking for deep passes. Like if the play isn't there, throw it away. Go to 2nd and 10. Go to 3rd and 5, whatever it is. Like that would be another thing I'm really hoping to see this week is Russell just plays smarter. Like he's veteran enough. He shouldn't be taking sacks in these kinds of situations unless it's just a less than 2 seconds, total blown pressure. But anyway, those are the injuries. Freddie Swain also, that's not that big of a deal, but I don't know who our 4th receiver would be. Especially because David Moore has been limited. I don't know who our Penny Hart. That's right.
Are they only carrying 5 receivers right now?
I think so. Yeah. DK, Lockett, Moore, Penny Hart.
Maybe they'll elevate
Freddie Swain.
Maybe they'll elevate like Ursua or someone for this week.
Did they bring Ursua back?
He's on the practice squad.
He's on the practice squad, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Ursua would probably come up. Yeah, he might be one of the 2 who plays this week.
He's old enough. He's almost ready to be a coach, but
So Josh Gordon's not coming back, is he?
Oh my God!
Like it. What do you think of Kenny Stills? Do you think there's any chance the Seahawks put a little flyer in Kenny Stills? I mean, he probably goes somewhere where he's needed more than he's needed here, right?
I would, if it's like him or Penny Hart, when it is your bottom of your roster guy. But again, everyone who gets cut now has to go on waivers, and Seattle's way down the list.
So, and that was my kind of counter to your suggestion, Jeff. Is like, is it worth using your waiver selection on because your selection resets right after you pick a player? I know they're
off of where your record is.
No, it's not like fantasy where it's always based on your record.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
No, it's always based on your record, and Seattle is going to be at the bottom of every single. And Tack McKinley went on IR today, like all the time we spent talking about his claims.
He's been claimed by like 4 teams.
Yeah,
something's wrong over there.
All right, let's talk about some of the other games going on. Is that all right with you guys?
Yeah.
Let me pull it up.
Pull up the playoff machine here.
Yeah. So, why don't we start with the Rams 49ers, and then we'll go to division first, right? Rams 49ers, and then Cardinals Patriots. So 49ers news is kind of interesting, right? So they actually got back Richard Sherman and Raheem Mostert. Is it Raheem or Rasheem?
Rasheem. Oh, is it not Rasheem?
No, it's Raheem.
Yeah, that's what
don't trust me when it comes to names.
Yeah, I wasn't really asking you, Evan. Just and they got back
Deebo Samuel.
Deebo. 3 pretty big players for them. And the 49ers beat the Rams up pretty good the last time they played, but the Rams, I think, are like 7-point favorites or something, or 6-point favorites, a pretty big spread. So I'm curious, like, where are you guys on this game? It's 6.5, by the way, is the spread right now for the Rams.
As a longtime fan of the Bang Bang Niner Gang crew, I think we have to root for the Niners.
Of course we do.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Don't root for them. We just root against the Rams.
Longtime Jimmy G fans, longtime Kyle Shanahan fans. Go Niners. Go Niners, baby.
Well, that's kind of but like, how do you think the game's going to go?
I think the Rams are going to kick their ass. I'm just being honest. I don't think the Niners. I feel like the Niners have mailed it in this year. There are too many injuries, too many, big time players hurt. Richard Sherman's coming back, but I don't think it's enough to beat the Rams. The Rams are looking like a really good football team right now, so I don't think it's enough. Jeff, what about you?
I'm trying to convince myself that this will be closer than it will be, than the spread says. I just pulled up an article while Brian was talking about the guys coming back, but they still have a bunch of guys on their COVID list.
Brandon
Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams. They don't know if either of them are going to play. That kind of counteracts some of the guys they're getting back. DJ Jones might not play. I don't know how good he is. But the good thing about this matchup from a Niners perspective is the best thing the Rams do is cover down the field. And that's not at all how the 49ers attack you. They're more of a horizontal team, and they try to attack the linebackers in coverage, and the Rams' weakness on defense is linebacker. So the fact that Ramsey and that other corner, Darius Williams, I believe his name is, maybe the Niners just completely avoid the deep passing game and just try to beat you with those Deebo Samuel routes. Because I remember the last time they played, Jimmy had an average depth of target of 2 yards.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. That's why I'm trying to go back to that game. I watched most of that game. There's no reason that Nick Mullins can't do what Jimmy Garoppolo did.
No, that was the game where everyone was like, they have given up on Jimmy. He was barely throwing the ball past the line of scrimmage.
And the other thing is the Rams were they were run over in that game. And the Rams talked about how that was a game where they felt like they weren't tough. That was that they were out toughed in that game. And that's part of where Evan's little, lover boy, Sean McVay, doubled down on running tough. He wanted to establish the run, which apparently is okay if you're Sean McVay, but it's a terrible thing if you're a Seattle coach. But I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to talk myself into it. Of course, I think the Rams should win this game, but I don't think it's a 6.5 point favorite kind of situation. They lost by 8 points to the 49ers, and it really wasn't even that close.
No, I think they scored a garbage time touchdown at the end. Yeah, it was 24-9 until the last 3 minutes of the game.
That Rams defense is just a real sort of, matchup nightmare, I feel like, for the Niners. It's hard to see what are the chances the Niners put up more than 17 points against that team?
I don't know.
Is it high?
21-6 at halftime the first time they played. 21-6 at halftime.
George Kittle had a big game. He's not playing.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
But Evan doesn't think he's good anyway, so Jordan Reed should adequately replace him.
Jordan Reed is questionable.
Oh, God. I can't believe he's still playing football.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I want to talk myself into the Niners winning, but I don't think it's possible.
Here's what might be the big. I think the three guys are getting back are big that make this reasonably possible. So Sherman could absolutely make Goff goof. He could absolutely get a pick or two. That would not surprise me. And I think Mostert and Samuel both are going to be guys that they run against the Rams. I think so. The Rams are going to win, but I think the 49ers got to
Come on, Shanahan. Let's go.
All right. Anything else on this game before we move over to the Patriots Cardinals?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Pats Cardinals. This one's interesting because Larry Fitzgerald is not playing.
Oh, COVID.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And of course, the Patriots have the dead last 32nd ranked DVOA defense. I cannot believe it's that bad. I haven't seen them give up that many points, but I guess they have.
You said the Patriots? That was the Patriots?
Yes.
Yeah, they're really bad.
Holy cow.
I sent you guys when we were freaking out about the Seahawks D-line before the season. I sent you guys a graphic of the Patriots depth chart on defense. And I'm this team looks really bad, worse than us. I remember Dayna got very mad at me.
You pulled out the receipts.
Yes. I was right about one thing. I'm mostly wrong. But this one, they had 7 players opt out or something before the season. They're bad on defense.
Well, so the Cardinals are going to be without Jalen Thompson, their safety. He was injured in the Seahawks game. That's a big loss for them. They're gonna be without Daryl Daniels, a tight end, who's actually been a decent player for them. And they're still without Josh Morrow, defensive end. And then we talked about Larry Fitzgerald. This game's a 2-point spread right now. It's pretty close. Cardinals are favored. It is in Foxborough, right?
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about this one?
Brian, you're not going to like what I'm about to say. Kyler Murray could have a game.
Wait, you're positive about an Arizona team and player? This is shocking.
That Patriots defense, as Jeff just elaborated on, has struggled all year long. I think containing Kyler, both in the run and pass game, will be very difficult for them. I could easily see the Cardinals putting up like 31 plus points on that Patriots defense.
The one saving grace in that respect is Kyler is banged up from that shoulder still.
Banged up, schmanged up.
Yeah.
I think he's okay.
Dude, they just played the Ravens, the Patriots, just 2 weeks ago, and they won 23-17. You telling me
I was in like a
Murray is
crazy
that
rainstorm.
much better of a runner than Lamar Jackson?
Right now? Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Have you seen that little leprechaun run?
He's a different kind of runner, but I mean, yes, he's definitely a better runner this year, but like, I don't know. I don't think he's like leaps and bounds above Lamar Jackson.
No.
And they only scored 17 points.
Patriots defense is really bad.
I know. Like, I just don't. DVOA has not matched my eyes this year for whatever reason. So like, the Patriots are only giving up 24 points a game, which is a lot. But I mean, the Seahawks are giving up like 29 points a game or something like that. And they're not even the worst. So, I mean, they've given up 27 last week to Houston, 17 the week before. They did give up 27 to the Jets.
I think one sort of emotional, psychological thing to think about too, though, is the Cardinals are really playing for their playoff hopes. Are they not?
Not really. The playoffs are kind of decided already. Like if you look at the standings, like there's like no playoff race. The only team who's left is like the Bears, and they're going back to Trubisky because of injuries.
Wait, is that assuming the Cardinals will be in or out?
Yeah, and Cardinals are basically probably going to be the 7th seed.
3 NFC West teams then. Is what you're telling me.
So the 3 NFC West teams, they're 6-4 is Arizona. They're the 7th seed right now. Under them is the Bears, the Vikings at 4-6, and then no one else.
It's not unfeasible that, I don't know if that's a word, infeasible, that the Vikings could catch up.
Yeah.
With how they're trending.
Yeah, that's the only one. They have a bunch of easy games coming up.
Okay.
I think the Cardinals could drop this game.
So do I.
I really do.
Why do you believe that? What happens? What has to happen for them to drop that game?
So I think the Cardinals are overblown. I really do.
Wow.
The Seahawks should have beat them by at least 7, if not 10 points the first time. Like the Seahawks made a number of just boneheaded blunders to turn that game into even a contest, let alone when they won. Then the Cardinals won on a Hail Mary. Like they lost that game and then they found a way. Like those two games go differently. Like they're 4-6 instead of 6-4. Like that's how close they are to and yes, you can say that about a bunch of games, but like they have not proven to me that they're a very good team. And so I just think that they're going to go in here, and if the real question is, can the Patriots move the ball? Can the Patriots score? I'm more interested in have questions about that than I do about whether the Patriots defense can hold up.
The one strength of the Patriots defense, Gilmore has not played a lot this year. You have Gilmore who will cover Hopkins. That's as good of a matchup as you can have in that regard. And
I think they have Fitzgerald.
Yeah, J.C. Jackson, I think his name is. He has a bunch of interceptions. So that's the one area where they actually do match up favorably with Arizona rather than the front seven. And if Kyler's banged up a bit, I don't know if he's going to be running around as much as usual. And he only ran like 5 times against Seattle. if that comes out of their offense and they can't, and the corners do well, maybe they're actually a good matchup for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think the right team's favored. I don't think it's clear that the Patriots should win, but this is a coin flip game to me.
Frankly, I'm not very worried about Arizona. Like, they're probably the 7 seed. That's essentially what they are at this point. Like,
so who are you worried about, Jeff, in the NFC?
the Rams, the Packers, and the Saints.
Stack rank them.
In terms of like overall, or who I fear from a
Who
Seattle?
you fear the most in a playoff matchup against Seattle?
The Rams.
Hmm.
The Rams. The Packers, I don't think would be great, but the Rams to me are just so uniquely built to give this team trouble. And no matter where the game is, they're just the team I would not want to see for reasons we've talked about over and over and over. And maybe it's just a mental thing, but I hate that matchup from the Seahawks perspective.
I think I'm the same. I think I'm Rams, Packers, Saints. I could flip-flop Packers and Rams, especially if the game's in Green Bay in January. Like, I don't like the idea of Russell playing in sub 30-degree temperatures and potentially snow or something like that. I don't think that bodes well for him. But yeah, I think the thing is the Saints, I think, are we all in agreement they're 3 out of the 3 in terms of who you'd be most worried about?
I don't even think they're 3. Like, wouldn't you put like I guess that's assuming they hold on to the division, but I'm not fearful of playing the Saints.
Yeah, I'd probably rather play the Saints than the Bucks even, maybe. It's
not even close.
I don't know if it's not even close. I mean, the Saints have a really good defense, but the offense is a little bit overrated.
Breeze is washed,
and he's out. So I mean, okay, let's look at that game for a second. Where is it? They're playing
at Denver.
They're playing at Denver. I mean, they're going up against Drew Lock. So I mean,
it's really hard to play at Denver.
It is.
Like, that Miami team was rolling, like killing, like they were on quite the streak. And a lot of people bet Miami last week, and they looked completely inept. They had to pull Tua, they had to put Fitzpatrick back in. It is a hard place to play, especially for a young quarterback.
Yeah, and the Broncos are coming off.
Taysom Hill is like Ursua. He's like 45, so.
Broncos are coming off a kind of surprising win against Miami. They beat them 20-13. They did get just blown out by Las Vegas. I guess their defense has not been playing well as of late. I thought their defense was pretty good.
They've been underperforming for sure.
But yeah, this is where, again, I keep getting screwed up with DVOA. But I could have sworn they were like top 10 in DVOA, defense-wise. You guys talk about Saints Broncos for a second while I look that up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in Taysom Hill. I cannot believe they paid him. What was it, like 21? Was it 20 something? Like a 1-year deal or something like that?
He got a huge deal.
It was insane. Was it 2 years, 42 million?
It was something like that. It was
ridiculous.
No, 2 years, 21 million.
Oh, 2 years, 21. I mean, okay. So that's a big difference.
For a guy, even if he's your backup quarterback, that's like 9 times what Cam Newton's making.
So I was right. The Broncos are 9th in DVOA defensively. I mean,
they beat the Chargers there. It's not. They could give Taysom Hill and this offense trouble, because if you I watched a lot of that game. I think you did too, Brian. Taysom Hill did not do very much. Like, his big play of the game was just like a lob deep ball that was completely whiffed.
Okay, did you see that play?
Oh my god,
where he got up and fumbled and.
Well, no, I'm talking about the play. I think it was like a vertical touchdown, but the receiver had to like put the full brakes on
Yeah.
stop and go back
Yeah.
to get the football.
And he still fumbled it and got it back.
Yeah. So that was not like some incredible throw or something.
No, it was a horrible throw.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay.
So
Just
the
making
Saints
sure.
next. So the Saints. Let's go just look at the like their number one seed, most likely to get the number one seed, right? Like that's what all the probabilities are saying. They've got 2 losses. They've got tiebreakers. So they're at Broncos, at Falcons, at Eagles, home against the Chiefs, home against the Vikings, and at Panthers. I swear they could lose 3 of those games.
2 to 3.
I don't think that's crazy.
No. And if we need them, if they're going to lose, we need them especially to lose one of those NFC games.
Right.
I am so much less concerned about the Saints than I am the Packers and the Rams.
The Packers to me are they are the class of the division of the conference outside.
100%.
Like even
100%.
I take them over Seattle right now just because this is the way the Seahawks have been playing. And that's knowing that like they haven't been perfect, but I just think that Aaron Rodgers and that offense can be pretty lethal. I just don't feel like there's anything lethal about the Saints.
Definitely not.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way.
Well, so then let's talk about the Packers. They're playing the Bears this weekend. Mitch Trubisky is starting again because Nick Foles is out. How do you guys feel about this game? I mean,
do we know where the
division
game's being played?
rivalry. What's that?
Do you know where the game's being played? Not that it matters a ton.
Green Bay.
Is this one in Green Bay?
Green Bay Sunday night game.
Okay.
I mean, that Bears defense, though, is pretty nasty.
It is. It is. The Bears are the exact opposite of the Seahawks.
It is interesting. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who, by the way, just crappy. He was getting death threats for his fumble in the Colts game. Like, Packers fans have this reputation of being like the happy-go-lucky Midwest,
There's 2 different types. There's the online Packer fan and there's the fans in the stands. Because I saw like Andrew Brandt, who used to work there, say like, there's nothing like Green Bay Packer fans when someone like bought him lunch or something. And I wrote him like, yeah, the same group that threatened this guy's life for dropping the football. Or like if you look at Ben Baldwin last year when he was kind of crushing Aaron Rodgers, like he probably has some horror stories in there. So yeah, I'm with you. Like that, this whole Packer fans are like better, holier than thou. Like, I don't know.
Not a good look. But anyway, he might not play, and it has nothing to do with that particular situation. But he's become a pretty big receiver for them. Of course, they've managed to click pretty well even without Devontae Adams for a few weeks and without Allen Lazard. So I don't know that it makes that big of a difference. But I mean, I just think the Bears sucks. I think the Bears suck.
Yeah, I have 0 hope for this game. The thing with the Packers, I have a good read on them. I've watched them a bunch. I talked to one of their fans a lot. They're they're in a very good state offensively. Rodgers is playing as high of a level as he's played in the last 5 years. Their offensive line is great. They're one of the best pass protecting teams in the league. Their defense is a nightmare. So we can relate to a lot of what they're going through. They can't stop the run at all. And when they played the Vikings a couple weeks ago, like they barely threw the ball on them. They're like their beat writers are always like hammering how bad their run defense is. And really they're talking about their coordinator the same way we talk about Ken Norton. They don't like Mike Pennon at all. And they're the kind of team that when they get punched in the mouth like they did last week against the Colts, they struggle. So they're similar to the Seahawks in a lot of senses in terms of like defensive issues. They're kind of this finesse team that doesn't do well against more physical teams, but I don't know if that's the Seahawks this year. I don't know if they want to go Chris Carson style. But they are a flawed team that has holes in it. But in terms of the Seahawks, if it becomes a shootout, that's a scary matchup.
I'm going to remind you that the Packers played a very close game with the Jags. So anything is possible in the NFL.
They should have lost that game.
They should have lost that game. But I'm going to give you 2 fun stats just to get your brain thinking a little bit. First is a fun one. In the last 20 matchups between the Packers and Bears, what do you think the Bears' record is against the Packers? Jeff?
5-15.
Brian?
What's the record of the Bears against the
in their last 20 matchups?
10 years.
I'm going to say 6-14.
3-17. They've won 3 games against the Packers in the past decade. Now, this is an interesting stat that I'm reading on the Bears blog. The Packers have 7 turnovers in their 3 losses on the year. Okay. But just 2 turnovers in their 7 wins. It could really come down to making Aaron Rodgers turn the ball over. I know that sounds sort of obvious, but if the Bears can generate pressure on him, which they should be able to do, and pick off a couple of passes, maybe Mitch gets the team to 20 points and maybe they contain Rodgers. I don't think it's, let me put it this way. I have more faith in the Bears beating the Packers than I do the Niners beating the Rams.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Even with the 3-17 record.
No way.
With the 3-17 record.
Kyle Shanahan by himself is worth more
the
than
Niners have mailed it in. The Niners have mailed it in. They're done.
No, that's horse shit. No, I don't believe that.
That's my take.
The thing with the Packers is the 3 teams they've lost to, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, and Indy, are like some of the only quality teams they've played on their schedule. They've lost 3 of those games, and they got knocked around a bit. So maybe I've been seeing hope that a team like the Bears, who are physical and tough.
It's their defense, man.
Well, it's definitely not Jermaine Ifedi.
Listen to the rest of the Packers schedule. It's Bears at home, Eagles at home, at the Lions, home against the Panthers, home against the Titans, at the Bears. They're winning out, guys.
So it's a lot like our schedule.
They're going to win out. They're going to get to 13 wins.
They have like a slightly better version of our schedule.
Oh, no, we have, yeah, ours is an easier schedule than
they have 2 Bears and the Titans, and even Panthers are kind of scrappy.
I would say that our toughest game is tougher than their toughest game, but we've got
Rams.
The other 5 games are easier. Okay. So just so folks know, if the Seahawks won out, set the Saints aside. Let's just say that they will lose enough that we'll overtake them if we won all 6 remaining games. If we won all 6 and the Packers won all 6, we would have the number 1 seed, assuming that the Saints fall to the wayside, which is a big assumption.
Yeah.
Which team, the Packers or the Seahawks, do you think is more likely to win out?
I think it's Seahawks.
I think it's Packers.
I think it's Packers. I think the Seahawks are just notorious for screwing up stuff like this.
I think what the Packers have done has been more repeatable. I think the Seahawks have been too much up and down so far. Like,
you're not wrong.
Especially on offense. I know we talk about the defense, but the offense for me, I think we're seeing like the Seahawks have lost their predictability and their rhythm on offense of like, okay, each week the other team's going to be on their heels. Remember the first few games of the season, the Seahawks were up and played ahead the entire game. Like every week they were just ahead of teams and had them on their heels. And yes, the defense was giving up a lot of points. Seahawks offense was just like overwhelming. They have not felt overwhelming for really since the Cardinals game, that first Cardinals game.
Is this your mind or your heart speaking?
Nah, it's my mind. Like, I don't think that I have not seen the Seahawks be as dominant on offense for like at least a month. And I just think that the focus has been on the defense. But to me, what is going to determine whether this team can win a Super Bowl is whether the offense can be dominant. Like, look at the Packers. Their defense sucks. But you look at that offense and you're like, yeah, that's tough to stop.
So you're specifically talking about like the offense building a lead and maintaining the lead, not just points scored.
Yeah, because we have more points scored.
Than the Packers?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm just talking
Okay.
about the last few weeks.
10 points over.
Like,
Okay.
I'm talking about the way the points are coming. It's been a little bit more pulling teeth lately. I would guess I don't know this for sure, and in fact I can pull this up because I've got the stats on it. I would best guess that our points per drive has gone down. And I will tell you if I'm right in just a second.
What do you use to pull that up?
My own stats.
What a nerd.
I am a nerd.
Longtime analytics nerd, Brian Nemhauser.
So, okay, I am right.
Okay, what was before and after?
Points per drive, first 4 games of the season, 3.2.
Okay.
Okay. Second 4 games of the season, 2.9. Last 2 games, 2.2.
Oh, wow.
So we were at 3.2 points per drive, first 4. The last 2 games, we've been at 2.2.
Yeah.
And even if
that
I go
one
to the
game must
last,
have really dragged it down.
even if I go to the last 3 games, hold on, if I can select the right ones. Come on. Last 3 games is 2.4. Even if I go back all the way 6 games, okay? So the first 4 games of the season were 3.2, like I said. Last 6 games since Minnesota, it's 2.6. So like it just hasn't been coming as easily as it was early in the year. I keep waiting for them to get back into it. And
well, this is the stretch to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
It isn't. They're going to be playing some tough defenses. I mean, these are not good teams, but the Washington football team's defense is legit. The Eagles defense is pretty good. I guess the Giants defense is no longer good. It used to be pretty good, but it's no longer good. But yeah, I'm not worried, but I'm just like, if you look at them versus the Packers, I'm just like, yeah, I just feel like they kind of know who they are a little bit more than the Seahawks do right now.
I don't think that's a crazy take.
No, they haven't had the dip that the Seahawks kind of had, where they had to really kind of refigure out who they are, and didn't have that blitz adjustment. But they've had games where they've just looked terrible too. Like Tampa Bay just ate them alive, and Jacksonville gave them a lot of trouble. Like Rodgers' stats turn out good. The Seahawks should be better than them. We have way better weapons in the passing game, and they have one guy. Really, that's it. But
am I crazy to think that the Seahawks might benefit from Will Dissly getting more snaps and maybe even Colby Parkinson? Like, is that like totally nuts?
I've had this take too, but I haven't been willing to say it because the circumstances are obviously horrible.
Right. I'm not cheering for anyone.
No, 100%, 100%. I want to make that clear, but I do think we've all wanted to see more of Will Dissly, right?
yeah, they miss what he does on offense. And Olsen was reliable for the most part when the ball went his way. He had some third down catches and some horrible drops, but Dissly's just like, his ceiling is so much higher at this point of his career than Olsen.
Of course.
So, and Dissly in limited plays has looked fine. Like, he just hasn't gotten the touches. And really, he was a top 10 tight end when he was healthy last year.
Yeah, I mean, the silver lining of I guess it's not silver lining is the right word, but the nice, not even the nice part.
Well, it's silver
with
lining.
the Greg Olsen injury, their tight end group is pretty stacked, isn't it?
So
Yeah, Will Dissly, Jacob Hollister, and Colby Parkinson. Like, I know we haven't seen anything from Colby Parkinson, but like, he had a really good catch rate in college, one of the top catch rates in college football. Like, those 3 players behind who was Greg Olsen, our tight end 1, that's a pretty good tight end group.
well, just think about, like, Jacob Hollister could get his 2nd catch of his career this game.
God damn it.
Actually, I do want to look up. I have to look it up really quickly, but he played a pretty big role against the Eagles last year, didn't he? Jacob Hollister? Am I misremembering?
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
We're going to find out. Hold on.
I remember DK dropping a wide open touchdown.
Oh, yeah. So there was that, but in the second Eagles game, DK was dominant.
Yes.
Okay, so he had 4 catches for 22 yards
So
the first matchup, and then
the Greg Olsen stat line.
And then in the playoffs, he had 2 catches for 16 yards.
That Greg Olsen money was just such pissed away money. It kind of upsets me.
Yeah, you were right about that one.
I didn't think it was bad. I mean, I thought he had a potential chance to really help the team, and it looked like he might. And then overall, I'd say he just barely helped the team more than he hurt them. Like, he had 2 just incredibly costly drops, turnovers. Like, I don't know if any of them cost the team a game, but yeah, he had some great
one good moment in the Dallas game where they had to drive down the field late, and he had that 2 third down conversions. But other than that, it's been like he doesn't look like a guy who can't move anymore. He like that Rams game, he was open a bunch of times that Russell struggled. Like he still knows how to run routes. He just doesn't have a lot of juice left in his legs.
Yeah, I think the place that they might miss him is just Russell's trust of him in those clutch situations and his savvy to know where to be and when to be there.
Yeah, like he was very good on blitzes and sitting down on routes, but they might get him back for the playoffs.
Yeah. It sounds like he might be.
But Disley's pretty good at that stuff too.
He is. I do want to see it again. I think he's been playing second fiddle, and he's been great, and it's been kind of a good way for him to stay in the lineup. Now that he's going to be the number 1 tight end, I do wonder a little bit. Like, we haven't really had to see him in and out of breaks the way he was before, and playing at the same level. I don't know if we know for sure he's still the same player he was the first 2 times we saw him on the field.
This helps with their evaluation.
Exactly. All right, fellas. Anything else you guys want to chat about before we wrap for the night?
It'll be weird to have 3 nights of football in the next 4 days.
Oh, we do have to talk about this. You tweeted about this, Evan. What is this shit with the NFL just moving back the Ravens game? Like, if your team cannot handle following COVID protocols and you don't have your players to play, then I think you have 2 choices. Play with who you've got, or you forfeit. Like, that has to be the natural consequence for not following protocol. And it's one thing, like, okay, you move it back to Sunday. Not great, but okay. You move it now to Tuesday. Like, it starts feeling like they're waiting until Lamar Jackson can play. It's like, that's competitively not okay. Like, there are teams that have advantages because their strength and conditioning is better than other teams. And so they have fewer injuries and you benefit from it. Same thing. If you have a team like the Seahawks who have actually managed the COVID situation better than any team in the league, that should be an advantage. And teams that don't handle it that well shouldn't get like some crutch from the league by having games moved around. Am I like too much of a homer on this, or am I like, do you guys agree?
Can I go off for like 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Oh.
Fuck the NFL. This is fucking bullshit. This is complete fucking bullshit. Did you guys see the details of what happened with the Ravens?
Yeah.
They had a strength and conditioning coach, whatever his name is, knowingly violate COVID protocol, intentionally, willfully refuse to wear a mask around the facility, and now a ton of players have caught the virus. What the fuck? Drop the hammer on these guys. If we get it, like, it's so obvious. Like, if a team gets it by just getting it and they're following the protocols, Obviously, stuff happens. You can't control for that. But if you have certain teams like we've seen with, or certain personnel, whether staff or players in teams like the Titans and teams like the Ravens, knowingly disregard COVID protocols, put their entire team's health in jeopardy, put every staff member's health in jeopardy, put the entire NFL season in jeopardy, put every other opponent player's health, the well-being of their families in jeopardy. Fuck that football team. They should be required to forfeit. They should be required to forfeit, because you know what? If they are required to forfeit, suddenly players, coaches, everyone involved has a much stronger incentive to hold each other accountable. Because you know what happens if they forfeit? Both players don't get players from both teams don't get paid. They don't receive a paycheck.
That's wrong too.
It is wrong. I agree. The non-offending team should be paid. But dude, this is so fucking ridiculous. This pisses me off. Like the NFL is scared of dropping the ban hammer here, and they have to do it. They have to make an example of somebody who is knowingly, intentionally, willfully violating COVID protocols. This is crazy. If this happens before a playoff game, if this impacts the Seahawks, you bet your asses we're going to be fucking pissed. Steelers fans are pissed. This has affected 2 of their games with the Titans and the Ravens, and they have a right to be pissed. Like, this is negligence. This is not okay.
You guys know the secret MVP of this season for the Seahawks that nobody remembers? His name is Kima. Kima Durant. You talk about dropping the hammer on someone who violates the protocols. What did Pete Carroll do? This guy was a player in training camp who tried to sneak a girl into the team hotel. He was caught. He was cut. He's gone. Period. Because what? First rule, protect the team. And so the NFL is not following that same philosophy, and I think it's killing them. Sorry, Jeff. I know you're going to jump in there.
No, because I do kind of agree with. I'd feel much worse if it wasn't the Steelers, but I'm still a little bit from Super Bowl.
But here's the thing, Jeff. We know it's going to affect other teams.
It will. So, to be fair, the Steelers have gotten really screwed because they lost their bye week because the Titans issue. And before that game, they were prepping for the Titans the whole week. The Titans had the outbreak, so they say, okay, this is your bye week now. Then they lose the Thanksgiving primetime game, which screws fans. It screws everyone. The players really wanted to play that day. And now they're playing on Tuesday, which gives them a short week coming up ahead. So they get screwed in multiple regards. And for the most part, I do think the NFL has done a good job being flexible with scheduling and adjusting on the fly and making sure all these games have played. But I couldn't agree more with what Evan said. There has to be a deterrent for this to keep happening. And just pushing a game forward is not a deterrent. And in a situation where like this would have warranted a forfeit, the Ravens should have been forfeited the game. The Steelers would have got the win. They'd have their normal rest, and the Ravens wouldn't get a chance to win, and they wouldn't screw up. But the Ravens clearly broke protocol. Same with the Titans. There were stories when the Titans first did it. Like I think Mike Florio came out saying the league was going to put the hammer down like never before. There's going to be a record punishment. And then they came out and they said, oh, we investigated them and it was fine. When it was like leaked, they were doing private practices. And so this is the second time this has happened. So this is a complete failure by the NFL. They should, and it's absolutely ridiculous that if they did forfeit, the Steelers would lose their game checks. Like, that is so backwards. But I do think the NFL overall has done a good job in terms of just making sure that everything moves along, getting these games played. I didn't think it would run this smoothly at all. Like when the Titans had that breakout, I thought the season was screwed. And we're like 4 or 5 weeks away from playoffs, and every game's been played. Really, teams have been able to manage despite a lot of the spike recently. I'm probably jinxing things now, but for the most part, them being flexible with their schedule and moving games to Tuesdays, I think for the most part, that's been good. But in terms of punishing teams that have violated, absolute failure.
Well, and there's levels of this, right? Like, for what it's worth, I don't for a second believe the Seahawks are going to go through the whole season without having someone get infected. I mean, I think it's an almost impossible task.
Yeah, the odds are strong.
So, like, it's not that. To Evan's point, even people that are doing their best, there's probably going to be some way that someone gets sick. So be it. But there's been multiple examples in the season where NFL teams have blatantly gone against protocol. And even after they went, like the Titans, when they went against protocol and still practiced, like they were just blatantly thumbing their noses at the rules. And that endangered the entire league. The entire league.
And then they were playing like the victim card.
Right. Oh my God.
That was infuriating.
So infuriating. So I just, like, Goodell is a puppet. He is not a commissioner. I think Adam Silver for the NBA, this would have been 100% different. He would have just come down with the hammer for sure, because he's an actual commissioner, not just the owner's puppet. And so
I think this has been Goodell's best year as commissioner.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's done a very good job in COVID, where like the whole league wanted them to shut down free agency because of how bad that looked. He was the one who went against it. Same with the draft. Everyone freaked out about that virtual draft. I think Goodell, for the most part, has been awful. I think this is his best year of just adjusting on the fly, making decisions. But his punishments, in terms of like this inconsistency of punishments and the fact that Josh Gordon's getting a year suspension versus teams violating COVID protocols.
Jeff, this would be my counter to you.
Yeah.
Sure, he was ultimately responsible for implementing the policy, but even more important is probably the enforcement of the policy. So that lack of punishment is a pretty big ding, in my opinion.
It is. But I think the fact that he was able to like actually show leadership earlier and when everyone was kind of working against him, I think this is a rare time where he's actually, like, if you look at how baseball was handled when stuff started to hit the fan compared to how football was handled, they've actually done a significantly better job.
But I don't know.
I know I don't want to praise Goodell.
I have no respect for the guy. As far as I'm concerned, I have zero doubt that if Jerry Jones and the Cowboys had some situation, that they would get different treatment than the Seahawks.
Well, the inconsistency of everything.
I mean, he is in the bag for the owners. So I'm just like,
yeah, that's
I'm
not defending Goodell's body of work overall. He's been a joke.
And it does feel like inevitable that, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm being negative here. I honestly think it's just realistic. I don't think the number one seed is going to get a bye. I think they're going to skip games, and they're going to have to, due to the rule that they passed, that there won't be a bye. And then you're really just talking about home field advantage, which is like worthless, other than if you are in Green Bay. That's or Minnesota.
Yeah.
There's a very real possibility, though, that playoff circumstance and situation is probably best for Seattle, assuming they don't get the number one seed in like the normal playoff situation. You see what I'm saying?
Help me understand again. Well, if you want to just tell me offline, that's fine. But I didn't honestly follow the whole thing about why, if they miss games, are they just going to add another team to the playoffs and make it?
So here's how it's working. Ideally, they don't want to have a week 18. They want to finish out. There's 6 weeks to go. We're actually looking pretty good in that regard. If there are multiple games, because there's no more time to reschedule buys, and they want to maintain the scheduling, if multiple games have to be shut down in multiple weeks, instead of doing like a week 18, week 19, they're just going to make the playoffs based on win percentage when the season's supposed to end and go to an 8th team. This is just a way for them to capture more money. It's such a stupid plan. Like, there's no reason to have to start the playoffs January 1st weekend. Like, they have the luxury of time. I think it's insane. But overall, like, there's 6 weeks to go. Like, we're getting close. And once the playoffs start, if you take out half the teams in the league or less, and the odds get better and better, you can finish the set.
You know what, though? You don't face any of this if you drop the ban hammer on the Ravens or the Titans, and you set a precedent and you make a statement. It doesn't happen. You know what I mean? The schedule most likely stays intact.
No, and their rationale is for sure like, well, the players might lose game checks, so that will scare them. Like, no, that's clearly not working.
All right, guys. Last thing I'm going to say before I got to sign off here is DK Metcalf going for over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game.
And it would be great because Eagles fans, the way we look at certain prospects, Eagles fans, DK Metcalf is the one that got away. And we hear like people talk about our draft picks, and their fan base right now like goes absolutely berserk anytime he does something, because he was a guy before the draft they thought maybe first round. He's sitting there in the second round, and they take JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who hasn't looked like an NFL player for one day. And DK Metcalf is one of the best receivers in the NFL. And when he blew up in that playoff game last year, that just haunted them.
Hey, JJ, whatever Whiteside, had 169 yards in his rookie year. Really impressive.
So he's like a worse version of Freddie Swain.
Basically what DK had in the one playoff game against.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of people taking L's on the DK Metcalf thing. I have to think the Patriots fans are pretty pissed about
lift on receivers and
Heel Harry.
Hold up. How many receptions do you think JJ has this year total?
10?
Jeff?
the way you're asking it, it's got to be really low.
Receptions.
Let's say 6.
2. 2. He has 45 yards on the year.
We go crazy about Connor and Penny. Like, they took that guy over Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf.
Bro, he has 2 receptions.
And like Justin Jefferson went 1 pick after their guy this year.
Rieger.
And Justin Jefferson was like the most like NFL ready player, like almost as sure bet as any player in this draft class. Like, this isn't a hindsight take. Like, anyone would have said before the draft, like the safest player in this draft class, other than the top guys, was Justin Jefferson. He falls down to the Eagles. He's there, like he slips to them. And they do the old Seahawk thing, try to outsmart the room. And it's just killing them. 2 years in a row of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, credit to the Eagles, though. Like, they recognized immediately that they made a major mistake with the Carson Wentz contract and had to draft Jalen Hurts in the second round immediately to backfill that position.
Yeah,
You got to give them credit. You got to give them credit. They knew this year was coming from Carson.
All right, fellas, I got to jump, but it's been fun. If you haven't already, click subscribe, click the notification little bell. That's how you find out when we do these random impromptus. We are going to do a post-game show Monday night. Join over at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Get immediate access to our Slack channel, and we will see you there as well. Until then, enjoy your weekend. Tomorrow's Saturday, folks. Enjoy it, and go Hawks.